They thought she was just another woman who didn't belong there. 5 of them, circling like wolves who'd found easy prey, their laughter echoing off the metal walls of that dimly lit mess hall. They had no idea they were about to make the worst mistake of their military careers. What happened in those next 30 seconds would become a legend whispered through every barracks on base. A story that would teach an entire generation of recruits what respect really means. She'd been sitting alone at the corner table, her tray untouched, staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Lieutenant Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 2 days. Her last mission, the one nobody was supposed to talk about, still played behind her eyes every time she closed them. The weight of what she'd seen, what she'd done to bring her team home alive, sat heavy on her shoulders. She wasn't there to prove anything to anyone. She'd already proven everything that mattered in places these kids couldn't even pronounce. But they didn't know that. They only saw a woman, small-framed and quiet, sitting alone in their territory. And in their arrogance, they saw an opportunity. The tallest one moved first, swagger in every step, his buddies flanking him like a pack. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I think you got lost on your way to the admin building." His friends laughed. That cruel kind of laughter that comes from people who've never truly been tested. She didn't look up. Didn't need to. She'd faced down enemy combatants in the dark mountains of Afghanistan, stared death in the face more times than she could count. These boys were just noise, but they kept coming. One of them, emboldened by her silence, reached out to grab her shoulder, to force her to acknowledge their presence. That was their first mistake. Their last one would come seconds later. The moment his hand touched her, something shifted in the air. It was like watching a lioness who'd been pretending to sleep suddenly remember what she was. She moved with a precision that spoke of thousands of hours of training, of muscle memory forged in the world's most elite combat program. In one fluid motion, she caught his wrist, twisted, and had him face down on the table before his brain could process what was happening. The sound of his cheek hitting the metal surface echoed like a gunshot. His friends froze, their smirks dying on their faces. The second recruit, driven by pride or stupidity, lunged at her. She sidestepped like smoke, using his own momentum to send him crashing into the chairs behind her. 12 seconds had passed. 3 more recruits remained, and the mathematics of their situation was finally starting to dawn on them. But testosterone and ego are powerful drugs. They came at her together, thinking numbers would make the difference. They were wrong. She was a Navy SEAL, one of the first women to ever earn that trident, and she had survived Hell Week when grown men twice her size had rung the bell and quit. She had pulled wounded teammates through hostile territory under enemy fire. She had made impossible shots in impossible conditions because failure meant her brothers didn't come home. These recruits, with their pressed uniforms and their untested bravado, weren't enemies. They were children playing at war, and she was about to school them with a mercy they didn't deserve. The third one swung wild, all power and no technique. She ducked under his arm, swept his legs, and he went down hard. The fourth tried to grab her from behind. The worst possible move. Within seconds, he was on his knees, his arm locked in a position that made his eyes water. The fifth, the smart one, finally raised his hands in surrender. 28 seconds. It had taken 28 seconds for 5 recruits to learn the most important lesson of their military careers. The mess hall had gone silent. Every person there had stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped breathing. They'd all seen it happen, this impossible display of skill and restraint, because that's what made it truly remarkable. She hadn't hurt them, not really. She'd humiliated them, yes, stripped away their arrogance with surgical precision, but she'd been careful, controlled. That level of restraint in the heat of confrontation wasn't just skill. It was mastery. It was the difference between someone who knew how to fight and someone who'd fought in the darkness where the world's freedom was won and lost. She released the last recruit and stepped back, her breathing barely elevated, while 5 grown men struggled to their feet, their faces burning with shame. At ease, a voice boomed from the doorway. Master Chief Rodriguez, a mountain of a man with 30 years of service, walked into the mess hall with purpose. Every recruit in the room snapped to attention. He looked at the 5 men, then at Lieutenant Chen, and something like a smile crossed his weathered face. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room, "you just got your asses handed to you by one of the finest operators I've ever had the honor to serve with. Lieutenant Chen has more combat deployments than all of you combined. She's pulled triggers in places that don't exist on any map. She's saved lives, taken lives, and carried the weight of this nation's security on her shoulders while you were still trying to pass high school gym class." The 5 recruits looked like they wanted the floor to swallow them whole. The shame on their faces was complete, total. "You will apologize. You will learn from this. And if you're smart, you'll spend the rest of your careers trying to be worthy of serving alongside operators like her." Did they understand now what they'd just witnessed? One by one, the recruits apologized, their voices small and sincere. Sarah accepted each apology with a nod. No triumph in her eyes, no gloating. Just a quiet dignity that spoke louder than any words. When they'd shuffled away, Master Chief approached her table. "You okay, Lieutenant?" he asked quietly. She picked up her cold coffee, looked at it for a moment, then met his eyes. "I just wanted a quiet cup of coffee, Master Chief," she said. And despite everything, there was the ghost of a smile on her lips. He chuckled, a warm sound that broke the tension. "Well, you sure as hell earned it. Though I suspect it'll be a while before you get another quiet moment on this base. That story's going to spread like wildfire." He was right. By the next morning, everyone knew. The details might have gotten exaggerated. 30 seconds became 15 in some versions, 5 recruits became 10 in others. But the core truth remained. Respect isn't given because of gender or size or appearance. It's earned through sacrifice, through skill, through the quiet courage of those who've walked through fire and somehow kept walking. Sarah Chen never asked for recognition, never asked for special treatment or accolades. She'd earned her trident the same way every SEAL before her had, through blood, sweat, and a refusal to quit when everything inside her screamed to stop. That day in the mess hall, she didn't teach those recruits how to fight. She taught them something far more valuable: that warriors come in all forms, and the most dangerous ones are often those you underestimate. As the sun set over the base that evening, casting long shadows across the parade grounds, somewhere in the barracks, 5 young men were learning true humility for the first time. And in a quiet corner of the mess hall, a decorated warrior finally got her cup of coffee, steam rising like a small victory in the golden light. Some lessons are taught in classrooms. Others are taught in 30 seconds that change everything. What lesson are you carrying that the world needs to see?